Let's talk about making our trading more relaxed, more effortless, and more profitable. And we can do this by understanding the law of averages. The law of averages shows up in a lot of different areas of life. It shows up heavy in areas like sales. If you're single and trying to meet women, it's going to show up heavy there. It shows up heavy in our trading. And in the good book, there's a great story that perfectly explains the law of averages and how this works. In the New Testament, there's a story about a farmer who's just going out there and planting his seeds, getting ready for his crops. And as he's planting his seeds, some of the seed that he throws out falls by the wayside. This wayside is a path. It's not good ground, it's hard. And the seeds aren't able to take root and they don't even grow. Nothing happens. They're just over before it even begins. Some of the seeds, they fall by stony ground. And in this stony ground, they're able to take root, but because of all the ground, it's not good soil, they don't go down very far. And so they start to grow, but there's no real substance to them, and they pretty quickly just die. Some of the seeds fall upon thorns. And on this thorny ground, it's actually good soil. They take root, they start to grow, but before they can ever turn into a full plant, they get choked out by the thorns and they also die. And then, thankfully, some of the seeds fall upon good ground. And in this good ground, some of the plants are small, some of the plants are big, some of the plants are huge. There's a spectrum. And this is the law of averages. And this is our trading. When we're out there and we're placing trades in the live market, some of our trades fall by the wayside. They're errors that we make, they're bad ideas. They're over before it begins. There's no favorable excursion. As soon as we get into it, it immediately goes against us and the trade fails. Sometimes we'll be in a trade that goes on that stony ground where maybe it wasn't a good trade and it was always going to fail, but before it fails, it goes in our favor a little bit, gives us that hope it's going to work, but then it ends up failing for whatever reason. Some of it on thorny grounds where it's a good trade. You did the right thing, it starts working out, but it can't ever get all the way to your target. Something happens, it gets choked out, and it dies. And then some of our trades work. And of those trades that work, some of them are going to be small winners. And that's all they're ever going to be. They're not going to be home runs. Some of the trades are bigger winners. And then, of course, we have those home run type trades that are beautiful and that we want to take very good advantage of. Understanding just this concept of the law of averages and how heavy this shows up in our trading, this really should take a lot of pressure off of us, especially if you're new to trading and potentially if you don't have a lot of money. It's very easy in this business to put a crazy amount of importance on one trade. This trade has to work. And if that trade doesn't work, we freak out and we start spiraling out of control and doing crazy actions. And if in a different area of life we did that same behavior, it would be unhinged and we would recognize that. But for some reason, we do it in our trading all the time, like it's perfectly normal. If you're somebody who's single and going to try to pick up women, and you meet a girl, and you have this crazy amount of importance that this is the girl that needs to love me, the reality is that most people you meet are not going to be for you. You can be good looking, you can be charming, you can be funny as hell. Most people that you meet, they're not for you. They're in relationships. They're coming out of relationships and dealing with stuff. They're just not into you for whatever reason. And if you put that kind of crazy importance out of it, and if you get rejected, you start spiraling out of control and going crazy, that's not going to work out for you. And you're probably going to get your text messages leaked to some kind of a Cody Co reaction video. If you're somebody who's in sales, you can't freak out on a prospect. The majority of people that you meet and prospects you have, they're not going to buy from you. You can be great at sales, you can have a good product, but that's just the reality. And if you have a prospect and you go crazy, and if they don't buy from you, you start going to a dark place in your head and spiraling out of control, you're not going to be in sales very long. And if you do this in your trading, you're also not going to be in trading for very long. We have to recognize that the law of averages is at play here. It shows up in our trading, and we just need to relax a little bit. And this doesn't mean that we have a license to just YOLO or be reckless or do anything crazy. We can control certain things, and we have to do our part. We have to, whatever area of life that we're in our trading, if we want to be good traders, we can learn our method, we can learn our entry skills, we can learn our risk management, we can do our part. But once we do our part, we need to have a mature understanding that we cannot control every result. And the good news is that we can meet our trading goals and we can do well in trading without having to control every result. And it's the same thing that happens in other areas of life as well. We don't have to control all of these results. Understanding just the law of averages and how this works in our trading, understanding this mentally it's important. And just that level of awareness can elevate your trading and change the way that you move through the markets. But then practically, what do we do about this and how do we combat this environment that we are in? The law of averages is real. That's going to be the dynamic we're dealing with. Really, the first thing I would say, and this is the answer to a lot of problems, is it's very important to be able to approach this from a position of strength. There's an old saying that says the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And this is very true. And one of the reasons for this is that rich people are in a position of strength. They have options, they have backups, they have reserves, they have leverage, they can move differently. And poor people don't have that luxury. And if you're trading and you're coming into the screens and you are in a position of weakness, this needs to be something that you address immediately because the law of averages is at play. And if you are in a position where you actually need that trade to work out, you're setting yourself up to just get beat around by the law of averages, and it's going to be showing up. So thinking and getting very clear about this, if you are in a position of weakness, that's fine. Most of us start there. But get clear and think about what would it look like for me to sit down at the screens and be in a position of strength. And then work very hard and make that your goal to get there. You can put a pause on the Lamborghinis or trying to swing for the fences or passing the eval in one day. Make that your goal of being able to get into the market and be in a position of strength so that you can also move differently. And you can be a bit more relaxed once you've done your part and let the results take care of themselves. Another thing that we can do that has helped me a ton, that's very simple, but it's very powerful, is having a management strategy that accounts for this environment where the law of averages is at play. And we're in a live trade. What do we do next? The management strategy that's helped me with this is going all in and then scaling out. Very simple as an idea, but it's very effective because of this dynamic where some of our trades fail, some of them go a little bit and then they fail, some of them work, some of them, everything we just described. And the way that I'll do this is when I'm in a trade, I get in typically with the full position size that I want. So I'm in the trade, I go all in. Then I just chunk that into 3 parts. So a third, a third, a third, and I basically have 3 exits. Now, when I'm in a trade, some of them fail. Sometimes I make errors. Sometimes I'm in a bad trade, and it just goes against me. Those happen. But for those other trades, even trades that ultimately are going to fail, most of the time, the market will give us something. It shouldn't be a very normal thing that as soon as you get into a trade, it just immediately goes against you. If that's like a normal operating procedure, you should revisit some of your method or your entries. But once we're in those live trades, it's very normal that we're going to be getting something, even if it doesn't go to our target, even if it ends up failing on us. And by having this scaling out type of a process, it allows us, or it allows me to take advantage, and even a lot of trades that fail, not have to take losses on those trades. Now, the way that I'll do this with the first scale out, if you're chunking this into 3 parts, that first scale out, it's just about mitigating the risk. It's not about trying to secure profit. It's not about doing anything impressive. It's just about mitigating the risk with this understanding that as a trade is working, I don't really know what that result is going to be yet. And this might be one of those trades that's on the stony ground and it's going to come back right back around on me and fail, or it's never going to make it to my target. And what I'll typically do is try to get this first scale out within a normal rotation. Every product that you trade, it doesn't just move in straight lines. There's an ebb and there's a flow that's happening. And it's very important if you're a short-term trader to be able to recognize what is that ebb and flow. There's usually a bit of a shorter term and a bit of a longer term ebb and flow on any product you're trading. And so if I'm trading something like the ES and the average rotation is around 4 or 6 points, that's where I'm looking to take that first scale out. Depending on how accurate my entry is, I want to be hitting that first scale out just inside of a normal rotation. So just as the market moves, if I have some of that potential, I can mitigate the risk. If the whole thing flops on me, I'm taking a smaller loss with already some profit secured. It's a dynamic that just helps be more protective and helps more on the risk side of things. And then from there, if the trade continues to work out, I still have 2 additional, let's say, bullets left in the chamber for whatever the trade ends up being. If it's a trade that has multiple targets, which a lot of trades do, a lot of trades, this is where I'm expecting it to go. If it can get past this level, I'll be looking for this. And it gives that ability to be able to take advantage better. Or if it's just a target that I have, and if the trade goes there, I can just take everything off at that place. We have options here with an all-in scale out type of a strategy. Again, the reality is if you are doing something that is just all in and all out, and this is what I was doing before I learned about an all in scale out type of a strategy. I would just get into a trade. If it went against me, I took it off. And then if it went to my target, I would take it for profit. And the big issue with this is it just forces you to be incredibly accurate. You have to be incredibly accurate with your entries, and you have to be incredibly accurate with your exits. And so those trades that don't quite go to your target, that still have a lot of potential, you can't take advantage of those. And those trades that are going to be home runs and go a lot further than you were expecting, you also are going to have a very hard time taking advantage of those. How exactly you would manage like an all-in scale-out type of a strategy, this is something that you can figure out for yourself and something that you can fine-tune. But it's an important dynamic. And as I look back on my trading, all of us on our trading journey, there's going to be a handful of things that when we learn them or when we're exposed to them or when we start incorporating them, they make a big difference. One of these things for me was the volume profile. When I learned about the volume profile, it changed a lot. It wasn't just a new method, because at the time I learned about the profile, I was in the habit of changing methods quite a bit. So a new method wasn't that special. But it changed the way that I looked at the market. It changed the way that I made sense of what I was seeing. It changed how I moved in the market. It was very impactful. Another one of these things that I can pinpoint down to was this all-in scale-out strategy. And it's really worked wonders for me, and it helps us navigate this environment of the law of averages, which is just real. It's coming for all of us. We operate in an environment where it's heavily influenced by this. And these are some thoughts for your thoughts, and these are some things that have helped me big time. And if you're a short-term trader, especially, I would feel very confident saying that this would help you out incredibly as well. And it's something that if you're not doing, I would highly suggest that you start incorporating it in as well. And I'm sure you'll see some great results. Okay. Those are some thoughts for your thoughts. At some level, I know that we are all in this together. So I wish you happy trading and be careful out there.